several second-round picks and a pick swap. Our senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, reported on Sunday that the deal could take a few more days to be completed, but Beal is on his way to the Suns to form a new big three with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. We now welcome back the man that broke the news, Woj. So how exactly did this trade come together?
Richard, once Michael Winger, the new president in Washington, and Bradley Beal, his agent Mark Bartelstein, started talking about what a future looked like with the Wizards, and it was clear that Winger did not see a pathway to contending with this roster or with any roster the next year or two. It was clear to Bradley Beal that it was time after 11 years to look elsewhere and find a trade. They worked together, and there was no team more aggressive, I'm told, than the Suns in trying to acquire Bradley Beal, and I think none more willing to take on the $200 million plus left on the final 4 years of his contract. And I think for Washington, getting that contract off the books, not having to take on any future money, then the second round picks, certainly pick swaps, and the draft capital. Again, Bradley Beal having the no trade clause played certainly a significant role in what the marketplace looked like. He didn't have to go anywhere he didn't want to, but there were not a lot of teams who were really aggressive in offering up deals that were better than Washington's and willing to take on the rest of Beal's contract. And I think a huge part of that is the new collective bargaining agreement, the new salary cap, and how that's going to play out here over the next few years.
All right, so we know that Beal will end up a Sun, but that also puts Chris Paul. Do you think that Chris Paul will start the season with the Washington Wizards?
Well, the Wizards are leaving this deal open-ended here for at least perhaps another 24, 48, 72 hours, however long that they feel like there might be any traction in finding a third team to move Chris Paul onto a contender. Is there somebody out there who would throw the Wizards perhaps a couple expiring contracts to match up with Chris Paul's money and a draft asset? And that is going to be difficult at 38 years old for anybody to really give anything up for Chris Paul. And I think teams like the Clippers and Lakers want to wait until he's in free agency if he gets a buyout. But listen, don't absolutely rule out the possibility that the Wizards might want Chris Paul to play point guard for them this season. I don't think that can be ruled out, but I think that's a conversation that's going to take place at some point here between Chris Paul, his agents, and the Wizards about what that would all look like. I think in the end, there's probably going to be a pathway to some kind of contract buyout, but the Wizards have him under contract. They have him under contract for the season. And so if they don't find a trade here in the next few days, perhaps it could get interesting.
All right. Well, thank you, Woj. We know this could get very interesting. I can't imagine Chris Paul in a Washington Wizards jersey. But here are the salaries that the Suns have committed to their big three. They have Kevin Durant for 3 more years, Bradley Beal for 4 more years, and Devin Booker for 5 more years. They have over $620 million tied up in these three players. Good for them. All right. We're back with our full panel. Pert, do you think that Bradley Beal was the right guy to go all in for?
Yes. We're talking about a guy that just a little over 2 years ago was averaged 30 twice in the NBA season. Here's the thing. I know right now they're top heavy, but when it comes down to having 3 of the most prolific scorers on one team, that's what the Phoenix Suns have. And I think the one thing that we don't look at when it comes down to Bradley Beal is his ability to play make. He's an underrated playmaker in this game. So he could play off the ball. You could put him on the ball. His decision-making is on point. He has a very high IQ. And we've seen Kevin Durant slide to the point forward position, and we never could question how he could make others around him better. This past postseason, we watched Devin Booker take a leap in growth in his PG skills when Chris Paul went out. I think this was a great move for the Phoenix Suns, and they're not done yet. This is just the start, but it's a hell of a start. And I'm going to end on this. They should be the favorites of winning the Western Conference. With those 3 guys, they should be the favorite, period. Let's not overthink this.
Mark, do you agree with Perk?
RJ,
Mark?
believe it or not, man, I covered a young, skinny Perk in Boston. And in 2007-08, Perk played with a really great big three with KG, Ray, and Paul. That's something I think that this group needs to look at. But let's forget about OKC and Kevin's time in Brooklyn. I think the thing that Kevin really needs to push on this team is to play like he did when he was with the Warriors. You know, KD averaged 26, Clay averaged 21, and Steph averaged 27 in that last year there. So in that team in Boston, as you see right there, they were able to figure it out collectively. There was no egos. They're trying to win a championship. But Kevin Durant knows the blueprint to win, knows the blueprint to unselfishness and how to find each other's shots. And those three guys together, man, they're going to get the easiest shots of their life, just like Kevin did with the Warriors. So I think that's the blueprint that helps the Suns.
I mean, did we just not learn anything by watching the Denver Nuggets the last 2 months? They have a team. The Denver Nuggets have a team.
But who's their third? Who's the number three guy?
You don't need to have 3 stars. You need to have a team. You have a whole squad. Yeah. And the Denver Nuggets beat the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs with basically this construction, and now you swap Brad Beal in there. I think that's great. I think he is a good fit. He's going to space the floor for them because I think one of the issues that like Book and KD had a great 2-man game going. They had a lot of space around them. DeAndre Ayton is, look, they're going to have to figure out what to do with him, and he's going to have to figure out how he fits into this if he does stay in Phoenix. But the Denver Nuggets just showed us what happens when you build a team through the draft, all the way up and down the lineup. You have complementary players like Aaron Gordon. Okay, we're just gonna do the 3 stars again. But there's no depth. And here's the thing with this new CBA, it is so hard to add to a team when you're this far over what's going to be called the second apron. And let's stop. I know we're gonna call it that, but it's a hard cap. And they just saw the hard cap and they're like, we're not going to go a little over it. We're just going to go blow past it. We're going to just go way so far over it that it doesn't even exist. Maybe there'll be a third apron for them because they're so far over it they'll never get back under it. And I think everybody who's on that current team is going to have to stay because they will not be able to replace anybody or make any moves going forward.
Look, I'm not going to say that we've never seen this before, but this is a very unique situation. They have a brand new head coach. They don't have a system in place. Kevin Durant just got there 6 months ago. This is not what happened with the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors had a coach, had a system, had everything in place, but we're going to talk so much more about this
all summer long.
I think me and Perk are going to argue a bunch. But still to come on NBA Today. Hush your mouth. The biggest question mark of the draft is who the Hornets will take at number 2. Is it Scoot Henderson? Is it Brandon Miller? Woj has a little insight on who has the edge. Plus, sticking with the draft, Mark Spears with an exclusive look inside the Thompson twins' path to the NBA. Andrea Carter tells us why they deserve to go in the top.